Good morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. That vaunted talk show listened to by
both of them.
Both of them out there in Logan County. Good morning, everybody. This is Bill. I think we'll bring Judy in here shortly. We always try to start Viewpoint with a kudo or two, and it seemed to me, Mrs. Busby, that it might be just appropriate to kudo to the county board members who had the foresight to bring in a gentleman, and we're going to talk about that this morning, the saving of the courthouse. I don't know how else to save it, but it just, I think essentially it boils down to that, and Bill will talk to us about that in just a minute. So without further ado, let's introduce our guest, Mrs. Busby.
Yes, and we're very grateful on so many levels that you're here, because at one point, when they were trying to figure out what to do with our courthouse, which is such a beautiful, beautiful building.
Architectural gem.
It was kind of up in the air. And thank God cooler heads prevailed. And
the taxpayers who answered that referendum.
Yes, amen.
Amen to them.
Amen. So we have with us David Blankenship, who's a member of the Logan County Board, and with him is Bill Walter. Bill is the project manager and he is a restoration specialist. And they are fixing the dome of the courthouse so that we and our children and grandchildren can appreciate and enjoy it for a few more generations, and thank goodness for that. We're awfully happy you're here. You have no idea. I'm not alone. It's not just me and Bill and Jim that are glad you're here. There are lots of the constituents, aren't there, David?
That's correct.
Yeah. So how did it come to pass? And let's talk a little about that referendum, too, and how it's going.
Well, the referendum passed April 17th. We have received the bond money, and we're ready to move forward. We've begun the engineering process right now, and we'll probably go through several, I would say, conceptual drawings and different ideas. And we have a technical committee in place and a transition committee. Technical committee's charged with working with Bill on all technical aspects, and the transition committee's made up of public officials, and their duties and responsibilities will be limited to public service, continuation of public service, transitioning their offices from one location within the courthouse to another. They'll have numerous responsibilities. In fact, in many ways, they'll be busier than the technical committee. So,
now, did these committees go outside the county board itself?
The technical committee did go outside the county board itself to include highly skilled individuals within the county for input with regards to how to move forward as far as technical aspects, HVAC, plumbing, that type of thing, mechanicals.
Judy, I'd like to interject another kudo, if I may go backwards a little bit. David represents what we have here in Golden County, people who are willing to work on our behalf and at the same time take a lot of flack from people who don't know any better.
For a big paycheck, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. It's
so
very
David,
equitable.
Seriously, thank you very much for not only just being a board member, but being an active board member and thinking about things. And people like you make things happen. And without that,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Go forward very fast. So, Mr. Walters, what is your background, sir?
Well, I'm an architectural engineer by degree. I have lived family-wise, breathed, ate, slept, the whole concept of preservation my entire life. My grandfather and my dad repaired masonry buildings. And when you grew up, you thought that's all that anybody in the world did.
Sure.
Saving the future.
Well, in your world, that's what they did
that
anyway.
is correct. That is correct. So I could speak the language when I was knee-high to a grasshopper, as my grandfather would say.
Well, what did you say to yourself when you got to the big city of Lincoln, America here and saw our courthouse?
You know, I have been challenged by my family as to why I'm in this and how boring and mundane is it to work on stone buildings or brick buildings over and over and over again. And the interesting thing is, every time I see one, it's a whole new deal. It's romantic in a way, because you can almost time travel and put yourself back in the day when it was the hubbub, it was the happening place. And in your particular case on this courthouse, to see the dome mentally transformed back to what it was initially, the bright copper, the patinaed copper, in all the phases that it goes through over its age. But to see what had happened to the dome, and then to recognize what it can still be, the hairs on the back of your neck always stand up.
Oh, I should think.
And
Mr. Walters, is that when you first came into the county and your first view of our courthouse?
yes, sir.
I've always termed it, by my phraseology, an architectural gem. But am I?
Oh, you're 110% correct.
I'm asking because your expertise, you see tons of these types of buildings. But I just sit there in Mama's cafe and have a cup of coffee in the morning with the boys. We don't sell a thing, but anyway. I'd look out that courthouse dome and I'd say to myself, boy, are we lucky we have that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you are correct in that it is much like anything else in the world. You can have trees, you can have thousands of species of trees, and yet you look at one individually and you can reward yourself with its own beauty and its own characteristics, etc. I looked at this and I knew, because David had preceded my visit here with a continual dialogue about how wonderful it was, but how in sore need it was of repair and attention and care. And so when I came up, your question about what did I think or what did I feel when I first came up and saw it, I saw the potential. I saw this man and how he was able to transfer to me the desire that was with a lot of these people. And you're right, this particular building is majestic. It is, from a proportional standpoint, one of the more prominent domes. Many courthouses have much smaller domes. They may be taller, but they're slender. I don't want to use the word insignificant, because everybody has their particular spot, but this one jumps out at you. This one is magnificent from the dome first down to the building, and it exudes the character that you would expect.
As a result of the dome's problem, we pretty much mucked up the third floor courtroom. Now,
Yes.
what's the future of it? Will it be able to be restored? That was such a beautiful, beautiful
Absolutely.
place.
And as you may be aware, the project encompasses so many other things besides the dome. There are significant needs from a mechanical standpoint, from just an operational standpoint. As Dave mentioned earlier, the HVAC system, the electric, the plumbing, even bringing it up to current IT status. The world is different out there, and the judges and the public need and demand to have the security, have the communication capabilities, have the things that are appropriate to conduct business in an efficient way, in a safe way, and that's part of what Dave has been championing with this referendum, to get those things involved along with the dome restoration, so that by the time we're done, the whole facility can be utilized. And to your point specifically, the third floor courtroom, if I understand it correctly, is the largest or second largest courtroom in the state that is still in operation. And our intention is to go in and restore that in kind, so that it will replicate what it was 100 years ago. And we want to maintain that, and yet bring in some of the modern technology so that it serves a purpose. We don't want it just to look good and then not have the ability to be functional.
Right.
So that will be incorporated. The rest of the building will be brought up to snuff. Things will be put back into code compliance, and the mechanics, etc., will be taken care of. Bill, your point about David, one of the things that drew me here initially was, and it's hard to fake 100% care and passion, and that's something that Dave has and has allowed it to permeate through the all general public in terms of rallying the troops to get this project underway. This is the man that single-handedly accomplished that, and it's not just because he knew the nuances of the courthouse. It's not because he has an incredible technical background that allows him to interpret what is right and what is wrong, but he exudes that passion, and you can't fake that. And to me, that took me from a standing still position to almost a full race in wanting to partner with him and get this done. So I think between all of us, and there are other significant people that are involved, obviously, this is a momentum that has taken hold firmly, and I don't see any way it's going to be stopped until the project is completed.
And in order to the benefit of those citizens 50 years down the road, I just, I almost shudder to think of inattention to that and seeing that thing just day by day deteriorate.
Oh my gosh.
And that's exactly what we were doing, day by day deterioration.
Yeah. And don't underestimate how many conversations were had about, do we leave it just fallow and turn into a sore, poor excuse for his history in the most significant location in the county.
Yeah.
This is a very vibrant courthouse square. This is a very current and upbeat example of the life that is led in this county. And to have that sore spot in the middle of it, you might as well just go ahead and drop a bomb in the square and say, go somewhere else. Be something else. And that can't be.
And I don't think Mr. Welders might not be aware of what Sangamon County did when they wanted to make that underground parking lot and so forth. They took the old State House Capitol building apart and marked the stones and took everything out and started at the State Fairgrounds and went about their construction and came back and reconstructed that thing in its original form. I always thought that was a magnificent piece of thoughtfulness, and then to follow through and be able to do what they did. Take it apart and put it back together in its original form.
That's a challenge.
And I thought that was
a challenge.
And Sangamon County and the folks of Springfield are the winners for that.
Yeah.
Because the situation is exactly the same down there. That magnificent square in the middle of downtown Springfield. And, wouldn't have been wonderful now if we'd driven downtown to the courthouse, rather to the dime store, and park your car in the middle where the courthouse stands now. I don't think so.
It's hard to replicate character.
Once in a while, the good Lord sends you a couple people who have a little foresight and a little imagination and can do the right thing.
Yeah, Mr. Blankenship's a hometown boy, isn't he? I come right
That's
here
true.
from little Atlanta.
57 years.
Boy, you just kid.
You're just a pup. Wait till you're 81.
It's funny how he tells everybody he's 38.
I do. That is.
There's a missing 20 years in there someplace.
Yeah.
4 years on him.
Easy come, easy go. Huh?
I've luckily maintained 38 every birthday, so I'm doing quite well.
How about scheduling? Are we on schedule, Mr. Walters? And that's difficult. How do you set a schedule for a project that's so...
You make a guess.
Yeah.
You take a lot of what all of your past experiences have told you, and you look at what is required on the project, the magnitude or the insignificance. I mean, it all builds into a list. It is constantly dynamic. It is forever changing. You run into obstacles that you knew were going to come, but you can't always put a value to the degree of what resistance or sometimes an obstacle turns into something that's a lot smoother, and you can accomplish things at a faster pace. So it gives and takes. You're constantly modulating the schedule to bring it current so that you know what to deal with and what to plan on, etc. But we have put together what we believe to be a pretty accurate assessment, and we're looking at somewhere around 24 months for an actual construction period. That period is beginning after the engineering is complete, and we're guessing that in the month of November, we should be able to bring a completed package to, first and foremost, David, then to the technical committee, then to the building and grounds committee, then to the general board. That's kind of sort of the process that we follow. But we look to get feedback. We look to fine-tune and perfect as we go through these stages. We hope in the month of November and December that we'll have everything edited, we'll have everything massaged and put into as perfect a form as we can, and then be able to go and start soliciting contractors to come and actually provide bids to do the work. We want to get the project started in earnest in January and February. Now, having said all of that, something that David and I were really pushing for was to get the scaffolding erected on the dome now. And when I say that, it's because if we don't, and that includes a full encapsulation of that scaffolding, so that during the inclement weather, we can continue working on the dome. That doesn't make any sense while we're doing all of the background work, etc., to leave that go and forfeit because we couldn't get it enclosed in time to do work over the winter. So we don't want to waste any time. We want to take advantage of the fact that we have the ability, most assuredly, to do this.
And speaking of perfect packages, one of the perfect packages of the part of Viewpoint is that we have sponsors who are making this available for us.
Oh, yeah.
So go right ahead, Mr. Reich. We'll recognize these gentlemen. And right back live in the studios here at WLCN. Our program this morning, of course, each Wednesday morning at 8:15 to 0900 hours, is that vaunted talk show known as Viewpoint. As I said, alluded to earlier in the problem, we probably have 3 or 4 listeners out there. And I want to tell you the number that you should call. We've had some interesting conversation off air about this project, or that is the restoration of our wonderful Logan County Courthouse. 648-5510. Now, David Blankenship, county board member, you got him local. Be nice to him. He's a real nice young man. And Bill Walters comes from Ohio, sir?
Yes, sir.
And he's an expert in doing what he's doing. And it occurs to me, Judith, as we talk off air and so forth, boy, we got a guy who knows what the heck's going on here. So 648-5510, questions and or comments. They will be glad to field them.
How did you happen to pick him? How did you connect? Ohio is a little out of town.
Yes, it is.
It's further away from Burtonview.
Yeah.
Probably 30 years ago, this would never have happened. The era of communication, Ohio means nothing. Europe means nothing.
Really?
It's a phone call, it's an internet, it's an email. And Dave's tenacity in terms of his permeating the industry and then checking with people, it's almost like dominoes. You know, if you ask the right questions, and David always asks the right questions, you start eliminating what you don't want, and it just reveals what's available that you can select that will help you.
David,
I'm a lucky domino.
Yeah, I just could kiss you right on the cheek, honestly.
You go right ahead. The camera's not working. You go right ahead.
Thank goodness you stuck to it.
Yeah,
Are you always tenacious like that?
Oftentimes I am.
Good deal.
I have to admit there are a few times I probably should have been more tenacious and wasn't, but it was just a series of events. It was a friend that I have up in Goodfield, Illinois, that was familiar with a grant writer out in Ohio, and through some leads that was given to me by that grant writer, I was able to contact some different county administrators and building superintendents and some contractors as well, virtually in different states,
Yeah.
3 or 4 different states, and Bill's name came up 3 or 4 times, and I realized at that point it was time to reach out to Bill and bother him, so to speak.
We had a very good conversation.
We really did. That's where the tenacity come in, and just by happenstance, Bill was, I believe, working on the Rockford Library, I
Yes.
think, at the time, and it was actually going to be in Illinois the following day, and he came down and did an initial assessment for Logan County, and it worked out really well.
Yeah.
He spent several hours with me, and come to find out, I'm an inspector as well, and I'd actually, when I first met Bill, I realized that I'd seen him in some inspection training videos before, so it's kind of funny how things
In my
fall
younger
together.
days.
In his younger days, yeah, when he was 38.
Yeah, exactly. That
Bill,
same time zone.
a block north of our courthouse there is another architectural gem. That is our Carnegie Library.
Oh my gosh,
And
yes.
sometime if you have an extra half hour, just walk over there and look at that gorgeous piece of architecture there, and how lucky we are to have that in the community.
Absolutely.
And the same thing holds true for this nice little library just over my right shoulder out here in Atlanta.
Yes.
They have a wonderful little library
Sure,
here.
sure.
And the folks have seen fit to go in there and do something about that and not lose it. So, again, we tip our hats to the local folks who have their feet in the stirrups and their hands on the bridle and
Sure,
do something about
sure.
it. When you face a problem such as you walked in here to Logan County, what's the first initial thought that comes to your mind as you begin to think about the magnitude of the scope of doing what you're hired to do?
That's actually a very salient question, because it is legitimate in terms of how you mentally break down the project. When you first come in, I guess it's by experience, after working on many buildings and many owners and many people in the community, you appreciate the fact that there's going to be a substantial amount of people that push, a substantial amount of people that will pull, and then you determine which side is going to win. Is there enough people that are going to back you in doing what you want to do to this building? And it's not my wants, it's what I see the building requires itself. I know that it's going to take money. I know that it's going to take professionals that can do the work to put it back into the condition that it deserves to be in. What I didn't know was where were the people going to land? How are they going to view this? And quite fairly, something that Dave and I talked about a lot in the very beginning was, why is it in this condition? How did it happen to get to the point where it was functioning properly, to the point where it sorely needs work because it is a very low level of operational grading? I would say it was a C- or a D+. And it was not because of lack of interest. It was not because of lack of knowledge that something needed to be done. It was quite literally a lack of funds. At the appropriate time, the amount of funds that were required to achieve repairs just wasn't there. Now, we look at it now, and again, we associate the praise and success to the people that passed the referendum, recognizing that this had been put out in the general public before and did not meet with success. To recognize what is needed then to do it one more time, I think it was the third time, and expect anything different results. You have to change something. And Dave, I don't know how many sleepless nights he had putting together that particular package. And then, like a politician, a true politician, beat the brush to death, going from place to place to place, having little town hall meetings and explaining to the people. And again, when we first started our conversation this morning, that passion exuded through to all the people that he talked to. And when you have that, then it's a matter of the people saying, how can we say no? That we truly believe this, we truly need this, we're going to vote. And 66% of the people did, and there was success.
And that's a substantial majority.
It is an amazing majority. You don't find that as a rule. I mean, there are exceptions, but I think it is a direct result of the work that was put in prior to. Direct.
Definitely.
Yeah, I can't blame it on anything else.
And you're talking about having to make this dome be able to withstand 110 miles an hour wind. Now, you've probably noticed since you got here that we are the flatlands. And when
There's
the
absolutely
wind
nothing
gets
standing in the way.
not a darn thing. And when the wind gets started, it just can go.
You know, it's funny you should bring that up. Today we're going to be meeting with the scaffolding people. There's logistical things that have to be worked out. And I woke up this morning and I saw the forecast, 40, 45 mile an hour winds. Aren't we lucky? They're going to see firsthand half of what might be available. You know, if you talk about the worst extremes, they typically 70, 80 miles an hour. So yeah, we're very cognizant of what could be.
And not only do you have to factor that in for the final dome, but for the encapsulation.
Absolutely.
And the work people who are going to be up and out there.
Oh yeah. We don't want to build a kite.
Oh gosh,
and have
so
another
much.
surrounding county say, look what we just saw flying over.
I think the Martians have come.
Now, I don't know about anything about dominoes, but we may have a question here. We'll just wait just a minute. If we do, David and Bill, do we have a question, sir? Use your headset so you can hear the questions. All right. Let me see if I can do that. Go right ahead, please, caller.
On the courthouse, are they going to have to move the workers, or is it still going to be open?
It's my understanding, and as we started talking about earlier, David has developed what we're referring to as a transition committee, which is going to focus specifically on the logistics required to move people within the courthouse from one location to another so that they can continue their daily operations. Yes, it's going to be inconvenient. We might lose an hour here or there, but the goal is to try as best we can to relocate them while the work is progressing throughout the courthouse so that their work can continue and they can provide for the county as normal.
Go right ahead.
She be gone.
By the way, I would like to say that I'm glad the young lady called in because people are intensely interested in what we're doing there, what will be done.
Yes.
Now, as I said earlier, the dominoes are all on the table, and I don't know how to begin a domino game, so I have to stop right there. But I'm using that as an analogy, but we're to the point now where we're ready to go. How do you find people who are qualified in this construction business? That's a specialty into and of itself.
Well, if you look at it from a family standpoint, there is a network. There are relatives, there are cousins, there are nephews, there are uncles.
Interesting.
Metaphorically, that we know based on prior experience working with in this industry. We ask those people to come and be involved.
Okay.
We look and keep asking questions about who else is available, and we vet them and we make sure that they have the talent and experience that can accommodate this type of project. If that is the case, then we ask them for their particular proposal to do a prescribed amount of work for this project, and if their proposal looks good, then we will bind them up in contract form and put them on.
Knowing how to put the players on the table, that's part of your expertise.
It is.
You bet.
It is. And we have an excellent construction management team. CTS is involved with the project, and they are as acute, if not more so, in determining the quality people that are available out there. And if there's a dearth in any one particular area, how do we find and make up that dearth and provide a full, respectable, competitive arena that will provide the best work?
Well, this is all on the basis of gotta be.
Oh,
You know,
yes,
you
yes,
can't say, oh
yes.
gosh, I can't find just exactly the right person for that job, so we'll just forget about that. Not so much.
No. Like you were talking with the dominoes. This is a house of cards. We cannot take out any one card and expect that house to stand. It all must be accomplished. And realistically, we will find it. We always do. That's part of our job. And it's always successful because not that we're only involved in the beginning, but once everybody is selected and once everybody gets underway, we stay and maintain our position, making sure for the county's sake, and more importantly for the building's sake, that the work is being done properly through the entire course of the project until complete.
As you go from community to community and see project after project, and you probably don't have the benefit of a David at every corner. And
No, people think we're brothers. We're hanging tight because he is so reliable.
Oh my, yes.
And so necessary in this whole equation.
Do
People
you
don't appreciate what he
sometimes think,
does.
be still my heart? I just don't, how did this get to be so bad?
Well, that keeps us in business.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
cheeky response. It is something that happens. It is not, nobody's pointing fingers at anybody. That's not necessary at this juncture.
Well, and what good would it do?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. We did recognize it as a situation that was not the result of any misappropriation of monies or any procedures that were done incorrectly, maliciously. So we eliminated all of that. We needed to see that to make sure that we weren't going to unearth something that was unforeseen in that regard. So we got all that taken care of, all that pushed aside, and just recognized it as this is something that is needed. We made a list of everything that was needed. We knew what we had to accomplish, and that's how we formulated the project.
The word surprise must be a four-letter word to you.
It is something that, if we had a Bible,
Yeah.
a restoration and preservation Bible, it would be just that. We don't have the luxury that new construction people have, where it's going to take 100 concrete blocks, it's going to take 22 by 4s, and it's going to take 10 squares of roofing. We don't operate with those numbers. Our codes are, we'll do whatever's necessary, and as you just said, we try always to hide that look on our face when we open a door and recognize, I didn't know that room was there, or I didn't realize that the conditions were such. That's part of life in the restoration world.
I think, am I correct in my hearing? Of course, something about getting older and your hearing goes.
I remember that.
The question from the lady, was that about moving of the offices? Was that the essence of the question?
I believe it was. How are we going to
Which speaks to, but I don't harp about it, but I keep extolling the virtues of the folks who work for us in the courthouse, our county treasurer, our circuit clerk, our county clerk, the sheriff. Mr. Walters, we have an outstanding group of public servants in our courthouse, and as you work in and amongst and with them in the course of your professional duties, you're going to realize what I'm saying is exactly correct. These are all sincere people who want to do the best they know how to serve their constituents.
Yes.
And I was disappointed when I went to vote yesterday that I didn't get to go to the county clerk's office, because I always enjoy going in there. So, but that's the kind of people that we have working for us.
Oh, yeah. And you recognize very quickly the glue, all those people that occupy the space in between the people that think they're really important.
Yeah.
The Brendas of the world that actually get things done. There are countless other people. But it is amazing, as and we've been working on this for 16 months, plus or minus. So after that period of time, you get to know a lot of the players involved, and you get to know the people in between the cracks that are the people that actually get the work done.
Doing
really
things
important.
right.
Absolutely.
Well, I had one little caveat in my comments. I was insulted by one of the boys in the sheriff's office when they asked if I needed any help going up the steps.
Oh, Bill, it just finally
but now you
comes
see,
to this.
that's your entry to the courthouse. Of course, we have all this security and all these buildings
Sure,
now, which is
sure.
necessary, unfortunately. But without fail, they have always been very, very polite, very prompt, very professional.
Yes, yes.
And it's a
yes.
joy to go through their
Yes.
security
Yeah,
check,
yeah.
even though he did ask me if I needed any help.
He's forgiven.
We have our courthouse is more than bricks and mortar.
It is totally. And in 20 years, you're probably going to need a little bit of help getting into the courthouse. That's just a guess on my part. But David,
He's looking at me and saying 20 years.
you'll be impressed
Hopefully
with.
we can help that out.
Yeah, David has come up with some beautiful ideas as far as reconstructing one of the entrances to the courthouse to accommodate needs that, frankly, both you and I will need in 20 years. So you'll be impressed, and you won't have to have a question because from a sheriff or any of their people as to needing help, because it's all going to be laid out in front of you as to how to get in there. Not a problem. Not a
How do you
David,
reconcile-
remember Johnny Carson with Carnac, the
Oh, yeah.
predictor?
Yes.
Well, Carnac sits here and predicts that the naysayers on this project, when it's all said and done, we won't be able to find one of them. They'll have all disappeared into the cracks.
Absolutely. Yep. And we won't have to do a thing other than our job, our business, to the best of our ability, and that will take care of itself.
Courthouses must be one of the major things that you run into in your business.
They are.
Lots of courthouses.
They are. We do courthouses, churches.
I wondered about
Yes.
that.
Some of the older buildings on college campuses,
Yes.
a couple of state capitals.
We have some really pretty churches in our town. Have you just
I have
in your
driven
spare
around,
time
yes,
as you're
yes,
driving around?
Yes. And they exude the same character. I keep going back to that word character. When you look
It's a
at the
good word.
design of a building and you see the prominent features of it, you see the secondary, more laid back features of it, which is all part of it. You can't be on top of your game all the time. There has to be a place that you can call home and rest a little bit. Take off your facade and just be yourself. So you look at a building and say, this is where I'm going to get peace, this is where I'm going to do my business, this is where I'm going to socialize. All of that enters into it, and so many of your churches have. And believe me, from an architectural standpoint, all of these things are considered even 150 years ago when they built the building. Where are we going to be peaceful? Where are we going to give praise? Where are we going to socialize? All of that is considered as they construct a building. So now when I look at buildings that are 100, 150, 200 years old sometimes, you can see exactly how our forefathers laid that out and how well they did it. The concept nowadays is that the people 150, 200 years ago must have been pretty stupid. I maintain
much.
that they were superior intellectually because they had to be. We rely almost incessantly
On
on
systems.
Google and the internet and the smartphones, etc., the calculators. We don't have to do any brain work.
My grandpa didn't even have a cell phone.
I'll be darned. I'll be darned.
So, in the days of your youth when you were going to school, you ran around the campus with a slipstick on your belt, as opposed to...
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. You are well to recognize that.
Well, David, as you have wrestled with this problem and lost a little sleep, I'm certain, are you beginning to feel more comfortable, Mr. Blankenship, with the direction we're going now on this?
I am. I still have several concerns that I ponder from time to time, obviously, given the size of the magnitude of the project, but I am becoming more comfortable with it. It's going to take a lot of communication and a lot of work with the public officials, and there's a lot of coordination that has to take place here, and I concur with you. We have an excellent group of public officials down there. They're wonderful people. It's almost like a family in many ways. You know, we have that kind of dynamic, and but I am becoming much more comfortable at this point as we get the plan developed and start to implement it.
Well, I hope when you stop in at Chubby's some evening, they want to buy you a beer.
Well, I just made myself a promise this morning that we're going to try to prevail upon the two of you more often than you'd like, just to give us updates, because
sure, be fine.
this
Sure.
is so interesting to me. Don't you think, Bill?
I believe 100%, absolutely. And once more, 648-5510 in the closing minutes here. This is a very, very, very important project that we have embarked on here in Lincoln, Logan County. We're saving a piece of history, a magnificent piece of history. We have the expertise now to do that, and we have the expertise that brought in the expertise.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we
Well put.
appreciate, David Blankenship, your thoughts and your work and your fellow board members who have had the foresight to not just sit there and wring their hands and say, what are we going to do? You grabbed the towel and went to work. So we appreciate very much your being here. 648-5510. You got a last-minute question here. Go right ahead. Now, Judy, did you have one final question, comment?
My only comment is, thank God.
Well put. Well put. He is, after all, the one in charge.
There you go.
Would you like to sum up anything, Mr. Blankenship?
Not that I can think of, other than the fact that you probably start seeing some action toward the end of this month.
Yeah,
That's
yes,
we
definitely.
project this crane and the scaffolding to arrive sometime in the third, fourth week of this month. So you'll begin to see some activity.
Moving right along, huh?
That
There
has
you
a
go.
tendency to get everybody enthusiastic.
Right.
Yes.
Well, when I was a kid in college, I was always in awe of the boys who were around with, as I say, the slipsticks. That would be the slide rule.
Yes.
On their, this is before computers, Judith. And I was struggling to get by Chemistry 101, and these were boys in the lofty reaches of the Netherland to me. So we appreciate David Blankenship, number one, the work you do. Number two, the clairvoyance that you exhibited in finding Mr. Bill Walters. Bill, we hope you have a good time here. I want the folks on the courthouse to be very nice to Mr. Walters. Offer to buy him a cup of coffee. So thank you very much for Viewpoint. Be very nice to one another out there.
Thank you.